Late October nights in Boston always carry a strange kind of chill, as if the wind from the harbor brings secrets no one dares to touch. Rosario's, the Italian restaurant where I work, sits tucked into a corner of North End, its warm yellow lights glowing through frost-blurred windows, making the cold outside feel even sharper. I was wiping down the 8th table of the night, hands still trembling after a 12-hour shift. This was the 4th shift that week where I'd had to work double, dark circles under my eyes, palms scraped from carrying hot plates, my back aching. But I was used to it. Life doesn't give anyone the luxury of being halfway strong. I am Sophie Rhodes, 25 years old, a waitress in a tiny Italian restaurant, just lucky enough not to collapse, and unlucky enough that no one notices when I'm hurting. The espresso machine hummed behind me, each mechanical breath sounding like a tired beast at the end of its rope. I leaned down to wipe the tabletop, not realizing how hollow my eyes had become in the glass reflection beneath it. And then the door opened. A gust of cold air swept in, along with a man whose presence nearly made me forget how to breathe. He walked in tall, composed, carrying a confidence so sharp it felt like a blade. A black suit traced the breadth of his shoulders and the height of his frame. The warm light skimmed across his face, highlighting a jawline cut with precision, a high bridge of a nose, and his eyes, oh, those eyes, steel blue, deep enough to remind me of the sea before a storm, calm on the surface yet capable of swallowing entire cities whole. He didn't look around for a seat. No. He strode straight to the table in the corner, the one my boss always said was reserved for people no one should be staring at. I froze for half a second, trying to gather what was left of my fragile composure. "Good evening, sir. What can I get for you?" I kept my voice soft, afraid it would shake. He lifted his gaze to me, and the moment felt like someone had yanked the ground out from under my feet. His eyes lingered on the name tag pinned to my apron. Sophie. His lips curved just slightly. Not a smile, more like acknowledgement, as if I'd suddenly become something worth his attention. Red wine. Your oldest bottle. His voice was low, rough in a gentle way, but carried an edge like the vibration of a cello string in a closed room. I swallowed. "Let me check if we still have it." "You do." His eyes flickered. "Just tell them. Owen Parker wants it." I froze. That name struck like lightning. My boss Rosario once heard that name and nearly tripped over his own feet, his face turning the color of chalk. I didn't understand. But I felt at the entire restaurant suddenly going unnaturally quiet. I brought out the wine and poured it into a crystal glass before him. When I set the glass down, my finger brushed his pure accident. His skin was warmer than I expected. The pulse at his wrist beat strong, steady. A man familiar with violence, yet untouched by fear. He held my gaze long enough that I had to look away. And that was the moment everything began to fall apart. Near midnight, the restaurant had almost emptied out. I turned toward the entrance as 3 men staggered inside. The smell of alcohol hit first thick, heavy. Their red, unfocused eyes and sloppy grins spelled trouble. "Hey, sweetheart, still open? Give us something fun tonight." I stepped back. "Sorry, we're closed." The tallest one moved forward, flashing a greasy smile. "Closed doors don't mean closed hearts. Babe?" Before I could take another step, "That's enough." That low voice sliced through the fragile space between us. Owen stood up, walking toward us with a slow, deliberate calm. Every footstep carried the weight of whatever darkness lived behind him. His suit jacket hung open, his sleeves pushed up slightly, revealing a faint scar on his right wrist, a mark of the past, a warning to those who knew what such marks meant. The drunk man looked him over and snorted. "Late night, buddy. Stay out of this." For a split second, something flickered in Owen's eyes. Not anger, but a burning restraint. I reached for his sleeve, pulling gently. "Don't." It was the first time I'd ever whispered a plea to a stranger. He didn't look at me, but I physically felt his body pause at my voice. "Get behind me." His words were quiet, precise, and left no room for argument. I didn't have time to react. A metallic glint flashed from the drunk's jacket. He pulled out a gun faster than anyone in the room could process. I don't remember thinking. I only remember the pounding of my heart, Owen's sharp inhale, and the heavy click of a loaded weapon. Then my body moved on its own. I lunged forward. No thought, no hesitation, no fear, just the instinct to protect the man with storm-colored eyes. The gunshot erupted. Pain like burning steel exploded through my left shoulder. I fell backward, crashing into a table. Owen spun around, and his gun fired 3 times clean, controlled, merciless. I lay on the floor, blood soaking through my shirt, vision fading at the edges. In that half-awake, half-gone haze, I saw Owen kneel beside me, his face suddenly inches from mine. Those steel-blue eyes were no longer cold, they blazed, fierce, terrified in a way I never thought a man like him could feel. His hand cupped my cheek, trembling just slightly. "Sophie, what the hell were you thinking?" His voice cracked. I wanted to say, "I don't know," but all I tasted was metal and blood. He pulled me into his chest, holding me with a desperation that stole my breath. "Don't close your eyes." His tone was almost a command. "Stay with me. Look at me." I couldn't. Everything collapsed. My last conscious breath was filled with his scent sandalwood, oak, and the sharp night air of Boston, a scent that made trust feel possible, even if he carried the darkest shadows inside him. As the world finally slipped away, I heard a voice maybe real, maybe imagined. "From the moment you took that bullet, you became mine." And then I knew nothing. If this story touched your heart, follow the channel to enjoy many more heart-stirring stories every week. The first sound I heard wasn't the beeping of hospital machines, nor the distant traffic outside. It was silence. A thick, warm silence. So unfamiliar, it made my skin prickle. I opened my eyes. A high ceiling, cream-white walls, soft lighting gentle, not harsh. The faint scent in the air was jasmine mixed with oud. Too expensive. Too deliberate to belong to any hospital in Boston. This wasn't a hospital. Then where's Sophie? His voice reached me before my eyes fully focused on the figure beside me. I turned my head to the right. Pain shot through my shoulder, dragging me back into the nightmare of the night before. Owen Parker was sitting in a black armchair next to my bed. Gone was the storm-dark suit from last night. He wore only a simple charcoal gray sweater. The sleeves rolled to his forearms, revealing the veins along his skin. His hair was slightly tousled, the kind of disarray that came from raking his hand through it 100 times during a sleepless night. But what stole my breath wasn't the clothes. It was his eyes, those steel-blue depths that looked like they could pull me underwater. Except today, something else lived inside them. Fatigue, concern, and along the edge of his collar, a faint streak of dried blood. Not his. I tried to speak, my voice shredded. "Don't." He cut in, low and calm, but leaving no room for argument. "Let me." He poured water, slipped one hand behind my neck, and lifted me gently close enough that I could feel his breath warm against my cheek. Only when I finished drinking did he set the glass down. His eyes never left me, watching every tiny movement, as though if I inhaled too sharply, I might disappear. "You brought me here." My voice was barely a whisper. "Yes." No explanation, no hesitation. Why? His stare held mine. "Because you lost so much blood you stopped breathing twice on the way here." My heart faltered. "And because my doctor doesn't work in any public hospital." His doctor, a man with a private doctor, was not a normal man. I wanted to ask more, but Owen didn't leave space for questions. He leaned back, voice low enough to feel like an accidental confession. "Sophie, you crossed a line no ordinary person should ever cross." My face went pale. "You mean, because I took the bullet for you, His eyes darkened. No. He tilted his head slightly, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Because you made me lose control. Outside the wide glass window, Boston's morning sunlight spilled pale gold across white walls. From where I lay, the room looked more like a private retreat than a recovery ward. Owen stood and approached the bed. He stopped at my side close enough for me to see a faint vein running down his neck. The men who attacked you. He spoke slowly. They weren't drunk idiots. They came to kill me. My fingers dug into the blanket. A cold dread pressed against my ribs. But why? My breath trembled. Who are you? Who are you really? Owen didn't flinch. I'm someone people want dead, he said simply, as if stating a fact. Why? 3 seconds. 4. Then he braced one hand on the edge of the bed and leaned in, his shadow falling over my face. Because I'm a Parker. His voice was dark, and in my world, that name needs no explanation. Parker. I'd heard that name last night from Rosario, my boss, right before he nearly collapsed in fear. But what chilled me wasn't the name itself. It was the way Owen said my world as if I didn't belong in it. And as if he fully, irrevocably did. I shouldn't have interfered, I whispered, my voice cracking. I shouldn't have Owen shot to his feet as if I'd struck a nerve buried deep. Don't say that. He didn't shout. His voice stayed low, rough, as though held back by force. If you hadn't jumped in front of me, if you hadn't taken that bullet. He turned away, hands curling into fists. I wouldn't be standing here. And in that moment, I realized something. The fear in his eyes earlier wasn't fear of dying. It was fear of something far worse. Me. Losing me. Ridiculous. Who was I? Just a waitress with tired hands and a family that no longer held together. But Owen seemed to read the thought straight off my face. He leaned down, his fingers brushing lightly over my wrist, right where my heartbeat was frantic and uneven. You think I'm the kind of man who says thank you? He let out a faint, dangerous smile. Not soft, not sweet. The smile of someone used to controlling everything. I don't say thank you. I pay my debts. Then his gaze softened. Just a little. You saved me on instinct. You didn't think about consequences. You didn't think about dying. His fingers slid across the back of my hand. So now, you've become something I have to protect. I held my breath, not because of the words, but because of the way he said them. It wasn't the tone of someone making an offer. It was the tone of someone announcing a fate. When the pain eased a little, I tried shifting my position. Owen immediately caught me. One arm steady and unexpectedly gentle, so different from the cold danger he wore on the outside. Sophie, he said, voice dropping deeper. There are a few things you need to know. I looked up at him, my heart racing faster than I wanted. First, he said, the man who shot you was one of Romano's. He aimed at me, but after you stepped in front of the bullet, he turned his gun on you. A shiver shot down my spine. Second, the moment you opened your eyes, they knew you were alive. And he paused. His eyes tightened around me, as if holding me in place. They will come for you again. I had prepared myself for something bad, but not this. Not the thought that my life was now tied to a war I'd only ever seen in movies. My breath hitched. Then let me go. I'll leave Boston. I'll hide no. A single word. Firm. Unmovable. You can't outrun them. Not without me, but I don't even know you. That doesn't matter. He stepped closer. What matters is the moment you stood in front of that gun and pulled me out of its line. Owen stopped at the edge of the bed, morning light tracing the sharp lines of his face. Then he said the sentence that froze my heartbeat. And I knew. The second you did that, you marked your own fate. I wanted to argue, to say it was a reflex, that I hadn't meant to save anyone. But when I looked into his storm-colored gaze, I knew I was standing at a point of no return. I had changed Owen Parker's life last night, and he was changing mine today. I drew a slow breath. "What are you going to do with me?" His eyes softened in a dangerous way. For now, he lifted my hand gently, laying his palm over the bruising on my skin. "Keep you here. Here. For how long? Until I'm sure no one can touch you." A faint curve tugged at his lips, not the kind that makes someone blush, the kind that makes someone shiver. "Do you really think anyone has the nerve to lay a hand on something Owen Parker protects?" My body instinctively recoiled, my heart thrashing in my chest. Owen watched my reaction quietly, deeply. Then he spoke in a voice that felt like a palm pressing warm and firm against my ribs. "Sophie, I don't know why you saved me, but I won't let anyone make you regret it." A soft gust tapped against the window, and I realized last night was only the beginning. I woke for the second time that day with the strange feeling that I had slept in a place where darkness didn't exist. Soft afternoon light filtered through cream-colored curtains, laying a gentle gold across the foot of the bed, the kind of warm glow only very expensive homes know how to buy. A strange room, a strange atmosphere. Even my heartbeat felt like it belonged to someone else. It took me a few seconds to realize the thin sweater draped over my legs was Owen's, its scent of sandalwood and light tobacco clinging to the fabric so strongly I could guess exactly how long he must have been standing beside the bed. I pushed myself up carefully. My shoulder still hurt, but not with the tearing agony I'd felt in the morning. On the bedside table sat a fresh glass of water, a few medicine bottles, and a neatly placed note. His handwriting. Black ink. Bold, straight, just stubborn enough to match the man. "Out for 2 hours, don't leave the room." O.P. I let out a breath, half annoyed, half amused. Who signs their initials like a seal of authority Owen Parker? The name itself was a warning. I wasn't planning to leave the room anyway, but the door cracked open without warning. A middle-aged woman, elegant and poised with her hair in a neat twist, stepped in carrying a small medical kit. "You're awake, dear," she said with a soft smile, her accent somewhere between Italian and British. "I'm Dr. Elena." Her voice was warm like caramel melting on the tongue. I'm okay," I whispered. Elena didn't reply. She simply propped me up gently and checked the bandage. I winced as she touched the tender area. "Lucky for you. The bullet only grazed the muscle," she said with a sigh while changing the dressing. "But even luckier that the one who brought you here was Owen." I stiffened. "You know him?" Elena laughed lightly, as if I had asked the most obvious question in the world. "Sophie, is there anyone who works with Owen Parker who doesn't know him?" Her tone was half amused, half sympathetic. A strange shiver crawled up my spine. What kind of man is he?" I asked quietly. Elena paused. She looked at me like someone deciding whether I could handle a certain truth. "That question," she said slowly, "has no short answer, and no safe one." I parted my lips to press further, but she lifted a finger to my mouth. "But I'll tell you this. No one gets brought into Owen Parker's home unless he has decided to become responsible for them." Responsible. The word wasn't romantic. It was heavy, granite hard, and cold enough to chill my bones. Before I could ask anything else, Elena closed her kit and gave a small bow of her head. "You need rest. Owen wants me to look after you, within the limits he allows." Limits he allows. I wanted to ask what that meant, but she was gone before I could speak. As the door clicked shut, a draft brushed my wound, and I shivered. Something nameless slipped into my chest. I was in a world Owen had chosen for me, not one I had chosen for myself. Evening fell quickly. Boston's sun slipped behind the buildings, leaving a thin streak of tangerine across the sky. I sat curled at the edge of the bed, hugging my knees. When the door opened softly, I didn't need to look to know it was him. Owen stepped inside without a sound,
Yet his presence filled the room the way water fills a glass quietly, completely, impossible to ignore. He had changed clothes. A long black coat fell to his knees, the open collar revealing the line of his collarbone. His hair looked slightly damp, as if he'd splashed cold water on his face to wash away exhaustion. But what I noticed most were his eyes, no longer razor sharp. Tonight, they held a faint mist relief hidden beneath fatigue, like a man who had survived something, or done something he didn't want me to know about. I swallowed my questions. "Where did you go?" My voice was smaller than I intended. Owen paused, unsurprised by the question. "Handled a few things."
What things? The kind you don't need to know. My fingers tightened. But your problems are pulling me in. I have a right. He lifted his hand, silencing me with a simple gesture. Sophie, he said quietly, if I told you, you wouldn't sleep tonight. I don't want that. Maybe he was right, but what stopped me was the honesty in his gaze. He didn't look like a man who wanted control. He looked like a man trying to keep me away from a hurricane. Have you eaten? He changed the subject abruptly. I shook my head. He walked to the tray someone had brought earlier and lifted the lid. Steam rose, carrying the comforting scent of creamy chicken soup. I'll feed you, he said naturally. That's not necessary. Your shoulder still hurts. Don't be stubborn. Not a command? Not gentle either. Just a kind of concern. Dangerously real. Owen sat at the edge of the bed and held a spoon up to my lips. Open. Heat rushed to my cheeks as I obeyed. He was surprisingly gentle, so gentle it knocked my heartbeat off rhythm. After I finished, he set the tray down and studied my wound. Still hurts. A little. Owen brushed his fingers near the injury close enough to feel warm, but not touching, as if he feared one wrong move would shatter me with tenderness alone. His voice dropped lower. Sophie, last night you did something no one has ever done for me. A chill ran through me. You mean jumping in front of the bullet? He held my eyes, looking deeper than anyone ever had. No, you trusted your instinct. And that instinct chose to protect me. Not run. I opened my mouth to say it was reflexive, but he pressed his finger lightly against my lips, silencing the lie before it came. Don't tell me you don't remember that moment. I bit my lip, because he was right. In that moment, my fear of him had vanished. All I saw were storm-colored eyes, and somehow the only thing I wanted was to pull him out of the line of fire. I couldn't explain it. Neither could he. Owen spoke again, his voice brushing my skin like wind at my neck. I don't let people like you disappear from my life. I leaned back slightly. What kind of person am I? Exactly. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he tilted his head, studying me with an intensity that made my skin burn. Finally, he said, the kind who makes me forget who I am. My heart tripped. Not because of the words, but because he was the one saying them. Owen Parker wasn't the kind of man who confessed anything lightly. I opened my mouth to reply when the door knocked gently. A tall man with sharp steel-colored eyes stepped inside. Boss, he said with a curt nod, then glanced at me. Sorry for the interruption. Owen rose, his coat casting a long shadow across the floor. What is it? Damon? Even his name carried something that shifted the air. Romano's men were spotted in North End. I saw Owen's expression change not with panic, not with anger, with readiness, a switch flipping into combat. How many, he asked. 4. They were asking about Sophie. My breath vanished from my lungs. Owen turned to me. The softness disappeared. Steel took its place. You're leaving Boston tonight. My mouth fell open. Going where Owen braced a hand on the chair beside me and leaned in so close I felt my breath falter. Somewhere they can't reach you. And you, a shadowed smile touched his lips. I have a few things to finish here first. Damon glanced at him. "And the girl who's escorting her I am," Owen said. I swallowed hard. "You have to go with me." Owen tilted his head slightly. "You think I'd let you walk out of here alone?" In his eyes, I wasn't just a waitress anymore. I was a variable he couldn't afford to lose. A piece of his life that had locked into place. Owen returned to the bed and sat beside me again. "Sophie," he said softly, "from the moment you stepped into that bullet's path last night, your life took a different road." His voice lowered, shadowed like the night itself. And that road always has me in it. Outside, winter wind scraped against the window. Inside, our breaths tangled in a space thick with tension. I didn't know what waited for me next, but I knew one thing. After tonight, I no longer belonged to Boston. I had stepped into a world where a single breath from Owen was enough to make my heart lose its rhythm. I never imagined there would be a day when I'd find myself sitting in a sleek black SUV, speeding through the Boston night, wedged between two men whose eyes alone made it painfully clear their world was not mine. Owen sat on my left, leaning back but with not a single muscle truly relaxed. He didn't look at me, but his arm rested close enough that any slight movement I made fell directly into his range of control. In the front seat was Damon Owen's man, his eyes in the rearview mirror, sharp as a freshly honed blade. Every time his gaze lingered on me, I felt examined, weighed, categorized asset or liability. The car was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. "Where are we going?" I finally broke the oppressive silence. Owen didn't turn his head, but his voice deep, steady, impenetrable cut through the darkness. Somewhere safer. I swallowed. Where Denver? Denver. Thousands of miles away. Far enough to disappear. "It's not running," Owen added, almost reading the panic flickering inside me. "It's temporary isolation. To get you off Romano's target list." Damon spoke up, his tone cool enough to frost glass. "They've already asked about you in 2 neighboring districts. If you stay, they'll find you." A shiver climbed my spine. Owen finally looked at me, his stare so piercing it stopped my breath. "Don't let Damon scare you. No one is touching you." Damon smirked faintly. "As long as she stays near you." I looked at Owen. He didn't deny it. He didn't explain either, which was far more terrifying. At 3 a.m, Owen's private jet took off from a secluded runway. I sat by the window, watching the city lights smear into violet gold streaks below us like wounds across the night. From the moment we left the house, Owen hadn't stayed more than a few steps away from me. Damon kept his distance, but his eyes drifted to me every so often, not with hostility, but with calculated caution. As if he were assessing how dangerous I could be to Owen's focus, I leaned my head against the window, eyes closing, thinking of my mother and Emily. I hadn't been able to leave a message. No call, no email. Never in my life had someone yanked me out of my own world so abruptly. A warm hand closed over mine, pulling me back. "You're shaking." Owen's voice was quiet but unmistakably commanding. "I'm not," I whispered. He tightened his hold gently enough to throw my breath off balance. "Your hand is ice cold. Don't lie to me." I inhaled sharply. "You can't make every decision for me like this. I can..." The answer came instantly, without hesitation. "Because the decisions you made last night almost got you killed. You can't keep me in your world just because you stepped in front of a bullet for me." His voice dropped suddenly, carrying something like anger wrapped in fear. "You think I'm going to treat that like some accident?" I fell silent. Owen Parker wasn't a man who let someone save him without answering for it. He wasn't the kind to forget, or forgive, or let go. Morning in Denver greeted us with thin, cold air. Owen's car drove us through a quiet suburb before stopping at a large wooden house perched on a hillside. It didn't look like anywhere I'd ever been. Not flashy, not ominous, not the kind of place I imagined a Mafia heir would hide. It looked like a place meant for breathing. As I stepped out, morning wind swept through my hair, carrying the scent of pine and melted snow. The valley below glowed gold in the early sun. A small stream curled around a boulder in the distance. Why is this place so beautiful? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Owen stood behind me. His answer was simple: because I don't want you scared. I turned around. His eyes rested on me, not locked, not guarded, open, as if he'd allowed me to see the most human part of him. Damon circled to the back of the house, leaving us alone. Owen stepped closer, close enough that his breath brushed the side of my neck. "Sophie," he said softly, like his words were touching my heart. "There's something you need to know." I held my breath, knowing his tone meant the truth would not be easy. Romano isn't targeting me because of power. Not only because of that. I waited. Owen met my eyes directly. "Your father. Sophie." He paused. "He worked for my father." My heart slammed against my ears. He's what? My father. Mr. Rhodes drove for the Parkers for years. He was the only survivor of the 2006 ambush. Owen's voice was low, steady, careful, as if trying not to break something fragile inside me. Romano believes he knows something they want hidden. I stepped back. Cold wind slapped my face like a warning. "Wait," I whispered. "My father was just my father. A normal man, a driver, a gentleman." Owen shook his head and stepped closer but didn't touch me. "Sophie, I'm not saying he did anything wrong, but he knew something Romano wants, and he disappeared right after the attack." My chest tightened. "Your father didn't leave you and your mother because he wanted to. He left because he had to. He ran to protect all three of you." I clutched the edge of my coat. How do you know that Owen's gaze deepened heavy, unyielding, cutting through me more sharply than any blade? "Because my father left a record, and your father's name was in it." The world tilted. 3 years ago, my father vanished without a word. I thought he abandoned us. I was angry. I was hurt. I refused to think about him again. But now everything was unraveling. "How long have you known?" I whispered. "A while." Owen's voice was a thin, dangerous razor. "But I wasn't sure you were connected. I needed to confirm first." "Confirm. Me." My voice cracked. "How long have you been watching me?" Heat surged in my lungs. Owen closed his eyes for a brief second, a rare expression, like he was about to confess something he shouldn't. "Long enough to know you're unlike anyone I've ever met. You watched me because of my father." My voice trembled. Owen opened his eyes. He didn't deny it. He didn't flinch. But what he said next stopped my heart for an entirely different reason. At first, maybe. He took a half step forward. His breath grazed my cheek. His voice dropped, low and soft and dangerous like velvet hiding a blade. "But from the moment I saw you, none of the original reasons mattered anymore. I wanted you far from this world. But the moment you stepped into that bullet, you dragged me back into the storm I've been trying to outrun my whole life." My heart pounded painfully. "And that made me." Owen inhaled deeply, as if fighting the words, "want to keep you close." I stepped back, but the storm in his eyes followed. "Owen, you're pulling me into something I still don't understand." "I know." His voice sounded like breath against glass. "And that's the only thing that makes me weak." Wind howled across the hill. My heartbeat raced with it. Owen stepped closer still, his voice low and soft enough to be lethal. "You're safe here, Sophie. But if you want to know the truth about your father, you'll have to step deeper into my world." I looked into those storm-colored eyes and realized something terrifying. I wanted the truth. I needed it, even if it dragged me into a darkness with no return. At that moment, Damon emerged from behind the house, breathing hard. "Boss, we found the location of the man your father sent the record to." Owen turned. His eyes changed instantly, no longer soft. but the cold face of a man who ruled a bloody world. Where, he asked. New Orleans. Owen looked at me, long, measured. A warning. A question. Do you want the truth, he asked. My heart squeezed. I nodded. Owen's next words shifted everything. Then, get ready. We're flying to New Orleans tonight. We landed in New Orleans just as night swallowed the sky. This city is always awake, always singing, always hiding lost souls beneath neon lights and fractured jazz. But the moment the wheels touched the ground, I felt it tonight. There was no music. Tonight, the city didn't want to make friends. The wind carried humidity and the faint scent of burnt cinnamon from street cafes. Beside me, Owen stood tall, hands in the pockets of his long coat, his eyes sharp enough to slice through the dark. Damon followed a step behind. Silent, shadow-like. A black SUV waited to take us from the private terminal into streets washed in yellow light. I stared out the window, feeling like I had stepped into a place people like me weren't meant to enter. Your father hid here for a time, Owen said without looking at me. His voice softened just enough not to shut me out. New Orleans was the last place he was seen. Who did he come here to meet? My grip tightened on the seat. Someone who might know why Romano killed my father. My heart faltered. Owen, what does any of this have to do with my father? He turned to me then, and something like sorrow darkened his storm-colored eyes. That night, you didn't just lose your father. He said slowly, you lost part of a history that should have belonged to you. The SUV turned into an old neighborhood lined with wrought iron balconies. Streetlight shadows smeared across the stone like ink stains. At the end of an alley stood a wide warehouse, its wooden doors darkened by time. Damon checked it first. I followed Owen in, my heartbeat echoing like a voodoo drum in the distance. Inside smelled of old oil, rotting wood, and a hint of ash. Owen walked straight to a small room in the corner, its walls still blackened by fire. 15 years ago, he said, this is where my father was ambushed. The only person who managed to escape was your father. A cold shiver crawled down my spine. But he never came home, I whispered. He left us. Owen stepped closer, his eyes trying to ground me. No, he ran because of you and your mother. Romano tracked him for years. If he'd gone back to Boston, your whole family would be gone. I froze. My voice cracked. He protected us. Owen nodded gently. I didn't have time to absorb it because Damon suddenly spoke up. Boss, we've got company. The dim security camera in the corner flickered. Owen closed his hand around my wrist. Move, now. But before we could turn, the warehouse door slammed shut loud as a hammer striking steel. The entire space fell silent. Stay behind me, Owen said, his voice turning to ice, a blade sharpened in the dark. I clung to his coat for a heartbeat before Damon pulled me back into a shadowed corner. The doors burst open. 3 figures stepped inside. Light from the street carved their faces into grim silhouettes. Men from Romano's crew, eyes black with malice. Late night. Parker, one of them drawled. Paying respects to Daddy. I saw Owen's jaw twitch. He stepped forward, unshaken. Leave. The man laughed a brittle sound, like glass shattering. Leave? When we just found something better than your daddy's corpse. His gaze flicked toward me. Damon moved instantly, blocking their line of sight. His hand hovered near his gun. Owen's voice cut through the air. She has nothing to do with this. Oh, but she does. The man smirked. A lot to do with it. My heart plunged. Her daddy, he continued, kept the last surviving piece from that ambush. The thing you're searching for. And Romano wants it. Owen didn't blink, didn't breathe. Only his jaw tightened dangerously. You aren't going near her, I snapped before I even realized I'd spoken. Silence crashed down. Then the man laughed harder. Spicy little waitress. Owen shot me a look half reprimand, half fear, a rare emotion on him. Damon, he said quietly. Get her to the car. No, I protested. Owen turned to me, closing the distance so fast the air froze between us. Sophie, he said slowly. Listen to me. Go. I'm not leaving you. He closed his eyes for one brief second, one painfully human second, as if my words made it harder to breathe than the men aiming at him. You will destroy my focus, he whispered. And if I lose it for even one heartbeat. His voice cracked. I might not survive tonight. I went still, speechless. Then Owen turned back to the intruders, and every trace of softness vanished. Look at her one more time, he said, voice like molten steel, and I'll bury each bone in your body beneath this floor. The man spat on the ground. Confident, aren't you? No more words. The first gunshot tore through the air. Damon yanked me behind a metal sheet. I screamed, but his grip on my shoulder silenced me. I saw Owen. He didn't move like a man. He moved like something trained in shadow since childhood. I had seen him composed, elegant, cold, but never like this. A man born for battle. A man who did not fear death. Gunshots cracked, glass shattered, metal slammed against concrete. Then a chunk of ceiling collapsed. Flames burst upward. Fire! God! The warehouse was burning. Damon pulled me up, smoke clawing at my lungs. We have to go, now he shouted. I coughed violently, eyes stinging. What about Owen? I yelled. Boss can handle himself. He can't do it alone. Damon dragged me harder. I swear, we are not the people he wants burning beside him. I tore free, panic pounding in my ears. Owen. Smoke blurred everything. Then a heavy thud from the darkness. I spun just in time to see Owen's silhouette emerge through the flames, out torn. Skin bruised, staggering. He's hit, I screamed. Damon rushed to catch him. I ran too, tears mixing with smoke. Owen, can you hear me? I grabbed his face. He opened his eyes. Even through fire and ash, they found me instantly. Sophie, he breathed, voice broken. I told you, you'd drag me back into the storm. I gripped his hand hard. You're not dying. Not before I know everything. A faint smile ghosted his bleeding lips. I'm not dying. He forced the words out. Not as long as... You keep saying my name like that. Cars outside. Go! Damon yelled. We hauled Owen out as flames devoured the walls behind us. The night wind of New Orleans hit my face as we stumbled out the doors, just as the roof collapsed with a roar. Owen slumped against me, breathing hard. Broken, but alive. Damon flung the SUV door open. Get in. I pulled Owen into the back seat. He didn't look away from me for a single second. Sophie. His voice was soft, weak, but steady. Don't let go of me. My trembling hand cupped his cheek. I won't. Not while the truth is still out there. The SUV tore into the night, and I understood after this fire, I wasn't just searching for my father anymore. I was chasing Owen's secret too, and that secret had nearly killed him. Night wind whipped against the SUV windows as we sped away from New Orleans. Smoke still clung to my hair, my clothes, my skin, and in every ragged breath Owen drew as he lay slumped against me. His head rested on my chest, his breath burning hot like a fever. From the driver's seat, Damon glanced at the rearview mirror from time to time, the cold sharpness in his eyes, unable to hide something that looked almost like worry. Pulse is still strong, I whispered, uncertain whether I meant to reassure him or myself. He's not dying, Damon said, gripping the wheel. Boss has never gone down from a bullet to the shoulder. But the way he said never gone down chilled me, not because of the words, but what lurked beneath them. Had Owen stood on the edge of death so many times that it had become a routine to them? Owen stirred, his breathing uneven. I adjusted him gently, careful not to touch the wound bleeding through his shirt.
Sophie, he murmured, eyes barely opening. I bent over him instantly. I'm here. I'm right here. Even in the middle of smoke and fire and everything that burned that night, I had never heard him say my name like that, as if it was both desperation and relief tangled together.
You're not hurt. His voice was rough, scraped raw. I shook my head, tears slipping out without me noticing. No, I'm okay. Because of you. A faint smile brushed his lips, but pain seized his features and he tightened his hold on my hand. Don't say that. If you were hurt, I don't know what I'd do. Damon cleared his throat quietly in the front seat. Boss, don't say things that make the rest of us worried. Owen shifted his head, wincing. If I can't keep her safe, what's the point of being alive? My breath caught. Damon looked away sharply, pretending to be absorbed in the road ahead, as if he'd just overheard something too personal. I cupped Owen's cheek as gently as I could. You're alive, to find the truth about your father. And mine. Owen opened his eyes deep. Winter Lake blue. No. I'm alive to pull you out of things you never deserved to fall into. My heart twisted. He said pull out, not drag in, not like any Mafia figure from dark stories. He protected me as if I was the only thing anchoring him to the world. At Yinem. Damon stopped at a wooden cabin deep in the Mississippi woods, one of the Parkers' safe houses. A place so quiet the wind through the leaves sounded like distant warnings. Damon opened the door. I'll help him, I said. Though my voice shook, Damon eyed me, his face hardened by years around bullets, but his gaze softened with something like respect. You sure you can hold him? Boss weighs more than he looks. Owen managed a faint smirk. Don't listen to him. I'm only heavy because I carry too many responsibilities. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In seat. The cabin was warm from the lit fireplace. Damon laid Owen carefully on a leather couch, then turned to me. I'll prepare the tools. Sophie, keep him awake. He's exhausted. Let him sleep. Damon cut me off. If he sleeps now, he might not wake up quickly. My heart dropped. I grabbed Owen's hand and leaned close so he could see me. Owen, listen to me. You have to look at me. Don't close your eyes. He let out a soft laugh. Even through the pain. You always ordering me around. Huh? Yes, I whispered, squeezing his hand. And you have to listen this time. He closed his eyes, then opened them again, very slowly. Why? Do you care about me this much? He asked. I froze. The question wasn't teasing, wasn't controlling. It was genuine fragile, like he was asking something he'd never dared ask anyone. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Instead, I placed my hand over his chest above the heart, beating weakly but firmly. Because, my voice broke, I'm scared of losing you. The wind outside seemed to fall quiet. Even the fire crackled less, as if listening. Owen looked at me, something bright cutting through the pain in his eyes. Sophie. His hand lifted to touch my cheek. His fingers trembled not from injury, but from feeling too much. Damon returned with medical supplies. Boss, I need to suture the wound. You've lost too much blood. Owen turned his head toward me. You'll stay, right? My chest tightened. I'm not going anywhere. He exhaled deeply, like releasing the last of his fear before Damon began. I held his shoulders, feeling every muscle clench as the needle pierced his skin. He didn't flinch, didn't tremble. He only squeezed my hand as if I was the only anchor he had left. After nearly half an hour, Damon stood. Done. But boss, you're not moving around for a while. Owen closed his eyes, completely drained. I pulled a blanket over him. Damon gathered his tools, then spoke quietly, Fee. Boss has never let anyone touch him when he's injured. Not once. I looked at Owen's resting face, his lashes trembling with each breath. Why, I whispered. Damon hesitated. Because he's afraid of showing weakness. afraid of being betrayed, afraid of trusting the wrong person. I glanced at Owen again. And me, Damon studied me for a long time. Maybe. Sophie Rhodes is his first exception. When the cabin settled into silence, I sat beside the temporary bed, resting my head against its edge. Not long after, Owen's voice floated out soft, almost dreaming Sophie, sleep beside me. I startled. His eyes weren't fully open, but his hand reached out from under the blanket, searching for me in the dark. A wet laugh escaped me through tears. He was too weak to lift his arm properly and still wanted to reach me. I slid my hand into his. He relaxed instantly. "I'm here," I whispered. A warm, suspended silence stretched between us. Then Owen said, voice thin but unbearably sincere, "Sophie, the thing I fear most." He paused, breath fracturing. "Isn't Romano, or the darkness." "I know," I murmured, placing my palm over his heart. "You're afraid of losing someone who matters." Owen opened his eyes, and the look he gave me felt like it untied something he'd kept locked for years. "No," he whispered. "What I fear most is you walking out of my life before I can say what I need to say." My heart slammed against my ribs. "What do you need to say?" I whispered back, trembling. Owen raised my hand to his lips, brushing a faint kiss over my skin. "If you stay," his voice dipped low, thin as thread, "I'll tell you." I wanted to ask, press him, beg him to say it now. But looking at how fragile he was, how much strength he had already spent, I shook my head. "Sleep. Tomorrow. I'll listen." He closed his eyes, but tightened his hold on my hand as if afraid I'd disappear. I watched over him the entire night, in that warm wooden cabin, deep in the cold forest, in a world tangled with secrets and danger. I understood one thing. When Owen spoke those words, I was no longer standing outside his world. I had stepped inside it, completely. Morning in the Mississippi forest cabin began with a soft wash of light slipping through the window, like a quiet call. I opened my eyes after a night spent almost entirely awake watching over Owen, afraid that if I closed my eyes for even a moment, he would disappear from this world. My hand was still in his. His chest rose and fell steadily now, breaths calmer, but his face was still pale. I slowly pulled my hand back to stand, but Owen opened his eyes first. Those storm-colored eyes locked onto me instantly. "Where are you going?" His voice was hoarse but clear. "I was just getting you some water." He exhaled, eyes closing briefly, as though a wave of pain and relief that I was still there had washed through him. "I thought—" He paused, his eyelids trembling slightly. "I thought you were gone." I took his hand again, gently. "I told you, I'd be here this morning to listen." "You still haven't said what you needed to say." Owen opened his eyes, staring at me with a depth that made my heart tighten. "Sophie, what I want to say." He lifted his hand to touch my cheek, then winced when the movement tugged at his wound. I leaned into his palm so he wouldn't have to strain. "Is that I will never let you face this past alone." My breath caught. Not a confession of love, not what I expected. But a promise like that from a man born in shadow felt warmer than any declaration. "So," I whispered, "that means you'll tell me the truth about my father." A long silence. "Yes." Damon entered then, carrying a tray of breakfast and wearing a face that said he'd seen everything but wouldn't comment on any of it. "Boss, your medicine, and Sophie, you should eat before you faint." I helped Owen sit up. Damon checked the wound, then nodded. "Good, but Boss isn't going anywhere for the next 24 hours. Owen smirked, voice low. "You think I'd leave this bed while Sophie's right here?" My face burned. Damon sighed under his breath, muttering. I heard nothing. After breakfast, Damon stepped outside to check security around the cabin. I sat across from Owen, hands in my lap, waiting. A breeze slipped through a crack in the door, stirring the curtains and bringing the scent of damp forest. Owen watched me for a long moment before speaking. Your father's real name wasn't Rhodes. I went still. What? Did you say his real name was Samuel Carter? Owen's tone was slow, deliberate. He was the underground accountant for a major organization and the only man who held the original ledger that Romano fears more than anything. My heart seized. The ledger. He nodded. A record of Romano's dirty money pipeline for over 20 years. With it, he falls. And your father was the one who kept it. I shot to my feet. That's impossible. My father was just an office employee. An office employee, Owen said, cannot vanish from federal databases in one night, cannot erase his trail so cleanly that even the FBI assumed he was dead. Sophie, your father didn't abandon you. He ran so Romano wouldn't find you and your mother. The room tilted around me. Then why? Why didn't he ever contact us? Owen looked at me with eyes that already knew the answer would hurt. Because Romano found him before he could find you. My stomach twisted. Dead? I choked. Owen held my gaze silently for a long beat. No one ever truly saw a body. Only blood, tracks, and a note he left behind. I sat down hard, breath shallow. Where is the note? Owen opened the drawer beside the bed and pulled out a sealed, moisture-proof pouch. Inside was a worn piece of paper, its handwriting blurred by water, but still recognizable. I unfolded it. Sophie, if you're reading this, it means I had no other choice. Do not trust anyone, not even those who say they're protecting you. Leave Boston immediately. Most important, never let anyone know about the key. Never show the symbol of the split watercrest. Live. I love you. Dad. My hands shook violently. The words dragged me into a cold, bottomless void. The key. I stared at Owen, my voice nearly gone. Owen pressed his lips together. Sophie, do you remember anything your father always kept with him? Something he never let anyone touch. I closed my eyes, digging through memories like brushing dust from forgotten shelves. Then a jolt. His old lighter. Owen straightened sharply, eyes flashing like metal catching light. Describe it. A silver lighter, I whispered, with a small engraving on the side like a droplet splitting in two. I asked him once. He said it was an old company logo. The cabin froze around us. Owen whispered, that isn't a company logo. It's the crest of the council, the underground board that oversees cross-border money routes. If your father had that key, he wasn't just an accountant. He was the final access holder. My body felt weightless. But the lighter? It's in Boston. In my mother's room. Owen inhaled sharply, gathering strength through pain. Then Romano knows. Because last night they didn't come to New Orleans to kill me. They came to get information about your father from you. My head spun. How do you know all this? Owen looked at me without flinching. Because your father was the only man my father ever trusted. I froze. Your father? Owen nodded. Sophie, your father wasn't just an employee. He was my father's friend, the only person a mafia boss ever called a friend. I sank back, unsteady. Owen's voice deepened. You asked why I care about you so much. He reached for my hand. Slowly. It's not because of ledgers, not because of the key. It's because... His eyes softened not with fire, not with possessiveness, not with darkness, but with something unbearably human. Sophie, you're the last living piece of the man who saved my father's life from a death sentence. My breath caught. He saved your father. Owen nodded. If not for your father, mine would have died 15 years ago. And if not for your father, I would never have had a chance to make anything right. My heart twisted. Make right. What Owen's grip tightened. I couldn't save my father from Romano's trap. But if you want, I won't make that same mistake with yours. I trembled. You think my father is alive? Owen looked straight into my eyes so deeply I couldn't breathe. Sophie, I believe your father is alive more than I believe in myself. The cabin door burst open. Damon stepped in, breath ragged. Boss, something's happened. He handed over a satellite phone. Owen, you need to see this. Owen took it. A single anonymous message blinked on the screen with one photo attached. We both looked, and I forgot how to breathe. It was a grainy image from a security camera outside my mother's house in Boston, showing a shadowed figure standing by the window. A figure that looked familiar. Too familiar. Unmistakably familiar. Damon's hand clenched around his gun. Boss, looks like Romano isn't the only one who knows about her father. My voice cracked apart. Owen, if that's real, if that's truly him. Owen placed a hand on my back, keeping me steady beside him. His voice was low, lethal, and determined. Then we're closer to the truth and to your father than we've ever been. The photo in front of me made my knees go weak. A shadowed figure standing in the Boston night, right outside my mother's window. Clear, distinct, real in a way that was almost terrifying. Impossible. It couldn't be. My heart hammered so hard it hurt. Owen? I whispered. That man. He looks like my father. Owen grabbed my hand instantly, gripping tight, as if afraid I'd fall into a place he couldn't pull me out of. Sophie, wait until I analyze it. Don't jump to conclusions yet. But his voice was no longer steady. It was heavy like stone. Damon stood a few steps away, his face drawn taut. Boss, if that's real, then Romano isn't the only one we're up against. I know, Owen muttered, not looking away from the photo. We moved into the smallest room in the cabin, the safest one. Owen sat back in a chair, his breathing still uneven, but his eyes razor-sharp and calculating. I stood near the door, arms wrapped around myself, feeling as if I could split apart at any moment. Owen motioned to me. Sophie, come here. I approached like someone walking through water. Owen pulled my hand down, guiding me to sit beside him on a low wooden stool. Look carefully, he said, handing me the phone. This photo can't prove it's your father. I stared. The broad shoulders, the familiar frame, the slight tilt of the head to the left, the exact way my father used to angle his head whenever he heard a sound behind him. I trembled. But it's too similar. So similar that Owen cupped my cheek, forcing me to meet his gaze. Sophie, I know the pain of believing someone you love is dead, only to see their shadow return. His voice was low, hoarse, raw enough to choke me. I've lived with that feeling for 15 years. I didn't speak. He'd never shared much about his father, but whenever he mentioned Mr. Parker, there was always a weight in his eyes like he carried an entire sky of grief. But because I've been there, Owen continued, I also know this. You don't trust the darkness before you see the light. I leaned my head against his shoulder, fragile as a bird folding its wings against a storm. Owen, if my father is alive, why didn't he come back? Owen placed his hand over mine, warm, steady, unwavering, because of exactly what he wrote in the note. Your father knew he carried a secret that could get anyone connected to him killed. My eyes stung. But if he's been hiding all these years, why now? Why appear at my mother's house? The question fell like a blade. Owen didn't answer right away. Damon leaned against the wall, arms crossed, eyes sharp as if mapping out battle lines in his mind. Finally, Owen spoke soft but grave. There are two possibilities. I held my breath. One, he really is your father, and he came back because he knew Romano finally found a lead. My throat tightened. And the second possibility, Owen's fingers brushed my wrist gentle, but waited. Second, someone wants you to believe your father's alive, to lure you out of the place I'm keeping you safe. Cold ran through me. Who would do that? Damon answered. The same person who ambushed your father 15 years ago. Romano? The name slithered through my thoughts like a snake. A long silence settled so deep I could hear the Mississippi forest stirring outside the cabin. Then Owen stood, even injured, even wincing from pain. He looked unshakable, like a commander preparing for war. We'll verify it. I won't let you drown in uncertainty. How? My voice was thin as a thread. Owen looked at me stone hard and impossibly gentle at the same time. By going back to Boston. I jolted. Boston. But, Romano, I'll protect you. Owen said a sentence he had never spoken so fully until now. And Damon will come with us. But Sophie, you need to face this. But why now? I whispered. Owen closed his eyes, inhaling slowly. Because if the man in that photo really is your father, he won't stay in Boston long. And this might be our only chance to find him. A tear slipped down my cheek, silent and hot. I'm scared. That if I find him, I'll lose him again. Owen reached out and wiped my tears, not quickly, not awkwardly, but with a tenderness that felt almost familiar, as if he'd done it in another lifetime. He whispered, if you lose him, you won't bear it alone. I'll bear it with you. We prepared to leave the cabin. Damon zipped up a bag of ammunition, checking every weapon. Owen put on his coat, leaning slightly from pain, but radiating a force that made even darkness step back. I stood near the door, hands woven together to anchor myself. Owen approached. He didn't speak. He just buckled the seatbelt across my shoulder. Slow, precise, like he was caring for something irreplaceable. You sit next to me. Don't move an inch away. I know. I didn't mean to ask the next question, but it slipped out. Owen, are you doing this because of my father? Or because of me? He froze. His hand still held my seatbelt. He looked up, eyes drawing me in from 1,000 miles away. Both. But mostly because of you. My heart fell landing in something soft and sharp at once. His feelings weren't simple, weren't safe, weren't easy. But they were burning. In the woods, in the night. Between blood and secrets, Owen Parker was falling for me the way a fire ignites in a room filled with oxygen. Dangerously. When the car pulled away from the cabin and into the forest road, I touched the silver lighter, the one with the split water symbol I'd found tucked inside the bag my mother sent with me. No one knew I had it. Not even Owen. I heard his breathing steady, heard Damon checking weapons, heard the engine hum into the wind. And then quietly I felt it. The lighter warmed in my palm, as if someone had held it recently, as if someone knew I'd discovered it. I turned to Owen. Owen, I whispered, I think someone touched this lighter not long ago. He turned, eyes tightening for a brief second, in a way only men afraid of losing something precious react. Sophie, he said low, tell me, what are you holding in your hand? I opened my palm. The lighter gleamed beneath the dashboard lights, the split water emblem flashing like a signal. Owen stared, and his expression shifted instantly. Not fear, not anger, but recognition, and something that could never be a coincidence. Sophie, his voice deepened, sinking into something dark and irrevocable. This lighter isn't just a key. My breath locked. What else could it be? Owen looked at me, eyes widening as if he'd just seen a ghost of his past. It's proof your father was with mine the night he was ambushed. I froze. And Owen finished the sentence I'd never dared to imagine. Sophie, your father didn't just run. He gripped my hand firm, anchoring. He was betrayed. The car sped through the darkness, leaving the Mississippi forest shrinking behind us. No one spoke for a long time. The silence felt like a thin layer of fog settling over secrets that still had no names. The lighter rested in my palm, cold as a piece of lifeless metal, yet heavy like an entire chapter of memory torn out of my life. Owen didn't take his eyes off it. He sat closer to me than necessary, though no one said it out loud. I knew the reason he feared I'd slip away, feared I'd be pulled into this story faster than he could reach for me. "Let me see," Owen murmured, his hand reaching out but stopping midway, waiting for my permission. I placed the lighter into his palm. As the dim cabin light brushed across the metal surface, the split water emblem appeared, sharp as a cut. Owen flipped it over and pressed the spark wheel with his thumb. It didn't ignite. His voice dropped. "This wasn't made for cigarettes. It's a mechanical key. Your father kept it for a reason. Romano never wanted anyone to know." I swallowed hard. "What reason?" Owen looked at me, his gaze deep enough to feel like wind slipping through the cracks of time. "Sophie, this could be the key that unlocks the data vault your father protected his whole life." I trembled. "A vault? You mean numbers pointing to Romano?" "Not just that." Owen rotated the lighter, his finger brushing the sharp edge. "If this is the original piece, it contains the code to access the identities of the people behind Romano, the ones controlling him, the ones who killed my father." The cabin temperature seemed to drop. Damon glanced up at us through the rearview mirror. "If that's true, Romano isn't the final target." Owen exhaled slowly, still staring at the lighter. "Exactly. We're up against whoever orchestrated everything from the start." I gently touched Owen's arm. "Who is that person?" He answered without hesitation. "The same man your father refused to serve 15 years ago. And in return, they took my father's life." My chest tightened. One night, 2 fathers, 2 lives twisted apart by a single choice. And the consequence was me and Owen, side by side in a car, hunting truths that offered no way back. Boston appeared after 14 hours on the road, its lights settling over the old brick buildings in a golden haze like diffused morning fog. I stared out the window, the familiar streets, the corners I had crossed 100 times as a child. But tonight, everything felt foreign. Owen placed his hand on my knee, steadying me. "You're not alone." Just 3 words, but enough to make me breathe again. Damon turned into the smaller street leading to my mother's house. Owen signaled him to stop 2 blocks away. "We walk from here. The closer the car gets, the faster Romano will sniff us out." I nodded and stepped out. Boston's cold wind sliced across my skin like tiny knives. Owen draped a thick coat over my shoulders, pulling the collar up to make sure I was warm. "Stay beside me." His voice was low, commanding, but gentle. "Don't drift even half a step." I moved closer to him. Under the streetlights, the shadows of our bodies stretched long and merged, thin as a thread binding us together. There it was. My house. The same worn wooden steps. The same flower pots my mother tended every morning. The same living room window where she always sat knitting. A sudden ache pierced my chest. "Are you sure?" Owen asked quietly. I inhaled deeply. "I have to go in." Damon stayed outside on watch. Owen followed me to the door. I knocked softly 3 taps, the same way I always did when coming home late as a child. Moments later, the door swung open. My mother stood there, shock freezing her in place, her hand trembling. "Sophie, you, oh my God, you." Before she finished, she pulled me into her arms. I buried my face into her shoulder, tears slipping out before I could stop them. "I'm sorry. Mom." She stroked my hair like she used to when I was little. "As long as you're safe, you never have to apologize." For a second, I wished time could stop right there until she looked up and noticed the man entering behind me. Owen. His expression sharp, but his eyes lowered respectfully as he greeted her. My mother narrowed her eyes. "You? Who are you?" Owen bowed his head slightly, a rare display of respect I'd only ever seen him give to me. "My name is Owen Parker, ma'am. Your daughter is with me for her safety." My mother stared at him for a long moment, studying every line of his face, then turned to me. Sophie, what have you gotten yourself into? I grabbed her hand. Mom, has anyone come looking for you? Anyone strange? Anyone standing outside at night? She jolted. Yes. Her voice sank, trembling. 2 nights ago. I thought it was you coming home early, but when I opened the door, the person vanished. Owen and I exchanged razor-sharp glances. Did he leave anything behind? Owen asked. My mother hesitated. Yes, I found this on the windowsill the next morning. She opened the drawer and pulled out a small piece of paper. My hand shook as I took it. Hastily written lines in handwriting I knew too well. Sophie, do not trust the man with you. He is Parker's son. Stay away from the Parkers. Remember the split watermark. Old meeting place. My breath tore in my throat. Owen snatched the note gently from my fingers. His eyes darkened instantly. Sophie, I recognize that handwriting. I whispered, voice shaking. It's my father's. Owen's jaw tightened. The words he wanted to say I knew were the one chance he didn't want to hurt me with Sophie. This could be a trap. But he didn't speak them. He saw I was holding myself together by threads. My mother stood behind me. Fear etched across her face. Owen leaned close, speaking low so only I could hear the old meeting place. Where is that? I stared at my hands. The room felt too small, as if shrinking around us. It's Quincy Pier. My voice was so faint even I barely heard it. When I was little, if Dad wanted to talk privately, he always took me there. I lifted my eyes. Mine and Owen's met. Between us lay the same fear but different shapes of it. Fear of truth, fear of loss, fear of hope. Owen placed a hand on my shoulder. We're going. Now. Now, I whispered. Night is when people show their weakness, he said. And if this is Romano's trap, I need to reach it before he does. My mother stepped forward, frowning. Sophie isn't going anywhere, and especially not with you. Owen didn't answer. He stepped back, letting me choose. I turned to my mother. Her hands shook, her eyes were red, but I couldn't hide anymore. Mom, I have to go. I squeezed her hand. If Dad is alive, I have to see him. She pulled me into a trembling hug. Sophie, your father is gone. Don't let anyone use you. I need to know the truth. I whispered. Then I pulled away. Owen placed his hand on my back, steadying me as we walked out. Damon was already waiting. Boston's wind sliced across my skin cold enough to cut. Every step toward the car felt like stepping into a distorted dream. Owen murmured beside me, Sophie, if that man truly is your father, I promise, I'll let you meet him. I turned to him, and if it's not Owen, paused for one long second. Then I won't let anyone hurt you, whoever they are. The car turned toward Quincy. City lights blurred behind us. In my hand, the lighter glowed with a thin red reflection under the street lamps, like a trail of blood. As if guiding me, as if whispering, tonight, Sophie Rhodes will finally learn the truth. The Quincy night wind cut across my face, cold enough to slice through skin. The waves crashed beneath the wooden pier in steady, relentless beats like a heartbeat trying to stay calm before a truth it could no longer outrun. I stood beside Owen, my fingers gripping the silver lighter. The soft yellow glow of the street lamps brushed across his face steady, composed, but unable to hide the depth of fear beneath his eyes. Damon scanned the area and signaled, "The place is clear." But there are signs. Someone was here a few hours ago. I looked toward the end of the pier. A single dim lamp swung in the wind. It was the spot where my father used to sit with me when I was little, teaching me how to listen to the waves to predict the tide. Owen placed a hand on my back. Sophie, if anything feels wrong, step back immediately. I'll take the front. No, I said,
Inhaling deeply. I need to walk this myself. Owen looked at me for a long moment before nodding, acknowledging my strength, and accepting that there were steps he couldn't take on my behalf.
We moved along the pier. The wooden boards creaked beneath our feet like distant warnings. Then a faint sound from the far end. I froze. Owen, I hear it. Damon raised his gun. Owen stepped in front of me. A silhouette emerged from the darkness. Tall, thin, a gray coat flapping in the wind. My heart stopped. Dad! My voice barely made it past my throat. The man stood 10 steps away. He didn't approach. He didn't retreat. I took 1 step toward him, but Owen caught my wrist. The man lifted his head. Light swept across his face, hollowed, worn, but it was the face I remembered. My voice cracked. Dad, is that really you? He stared straight at me. Don't come closer. Sophie, I froze. That voice, the way he shaped his vowels, the way his breath caught at the end of each word. Impossible to mistake. My father was alive. A sob tore through me as I stepped forward again. Owen yanked me back so sharply I almost fell. Don't, he hissed. Something's off. My father raised a hand not to warn me back, but like a signal. Sophie, you need to leave. You're not safe here. My throat tightened. Where have you been? Why did you leave me? Why all these years not leave? His voice exploded across the night. I ran to keep you alive. They wanted you. You were the bait to drag me out. I staggered back, tears spilling. If you were alive, why didn't you look for me? My father trembled, fists clenched. Because I am no longer allowed to exist. Owen tightened his grip on my shoulder, his gaze locked on the man. Mr. Carter, Owen said coldly. Care to explain why you left a note telling Sophie to stay away from the Parkers? My father looked directly at him. Because your father betrayed me. The air turned to ice. Owen straightened, jaw clenched, voice low. You're lying. No. My father shook his head, lips trembling. Your father wasn't just my friend. He kept joint ledgers. And he sold part of my data to the man behind Romano. I turned to Owen. Is that true? Owen looked at me, and in his eyes I saw something I had never seen before, not anger, not pain, but collapse. I don't know, he rasped. I only know he died protecting a data file. I didn't know it was bought with betrayal. The ground beneath me seemed to disappear. My father took another step. I'm not here to argue. I'm here because Romano found a trail, and the man behind him is coming. The man behind! Damon's finger tightened on the trigger. Who is it? Owen demanded. My father didn't have the chance to answer. A tiny click broke the air. Owen lunged, grabbing me and throwing me to the ground. Bang! The bullet tore the night apart. My father collapsed like a falling shadow. Dad! I screamed. Damon fired back. Owen dragging me behind a thick pillar, shielding me completely with his body. Where's the shot from? Owen barked. The abandoned ship right side, Damon shouted. The waves slammed into the pier like the ocean was screaming with me. I tried to break free, but Owen held me down. Sophie. No, he growled. He's alive. But if you run out there, you'll die. I trembled uncontrollably. My father's eyes searched for mine, dimming, weakening but clear. He was still alive. Dad. Dad! I sobbed. Owen cupped my face between both hands, forcing me to meet his eyes. Listen to me. His voice was sharp, commanding, but beneath it, pain for my pain. If you want to save your father, you have to follow every word I say. I nodded through tears. Owen darted to the right, hiding behind crates and drawing the shooter's line of fire. Damon circled left. I ran to my father the moment Owen blocked the attacker's angle. I fell to my knees. Dad, please! He grabbed my hand, his breathing broken. Sophie, you're grown now. You look just like your mother. Don't talk like that. We're taking you to a hospital. He shook his head weakly. No, Sophie, listen to me. The one behind everything is... I leaned down, desperate. He tried to speak, but another gunshot split the air. Owen slammed into me, pushing me flat on the planks. A second bullet whistled past. Then Damon yelled, "Clear!" He's fleeing. Silence fell except for my sobs and my father's fading breath. I lifted his head gently. "Dad, tell me who's behind Romano. Tell me, please." He opened his eyes, barely able to lift a hand to my face. "Sophie, you must live. Don't trust anyone who claims to protect you, except..." I held my breath. "Except..." He looked toward Owen. "Except him." And then his eyes closed, his hand slipping from mine. A scream ripped out of me, a sound torn from the deepest corner of my soul. "Dad. No, Dad. Please don't leave me again." Owen knelt beside me, pulling me into his arms as the last of my strength shattered. "I'm sorry. Sophie, I'm so sorry." His voice broke not as a mafia boss, not as the man who stood against the world, but as the man holding the woman he loved as her sky collapsed. I buried my face in his chest, fists clutching his shirt until my knuckles turned white. "You're all I have left." I sobbed. Owen placed a hand on the back of my head, holding me close. "I know. And I'm not leaving. Not even if the whole world falls apart." We buried my father in the small forest near the pier, where he used to take me as a child. No funeral, no visitors, just wind and waves. Owen stood beside me, not touching, but close enough that I could feel his warmth. "Sophie," he said softly. He chose to trust me. I'll live worthy of that trust. I turned to him. The sunset cast gold across the pier, wrapping his face in a warm, aching glow, beautiful, dangerous, unforgettable. I placed a hand over his heart. "I know, and I choose to trust you. For the first time in years, I've dared trust anyone." Owen leaned forward, his forehead gently resting against mine. I meant to say this back at the cabin. I whispered through the salt of my fading tears. "What?" "That I..." He paused, eyes deep enough to pull breath from my lungs. "Have loved you since the moment you called my name through the flames." My breath hitched. He lifted my face, voice dropping into something irrevocable Sophie Rhodes. "If you'll let me, I'll protect you for the rest of my life." A single tear fell not from grief, but because I finally knew, no matter how dark the path ahead, I wasn't walking it alone. I nodded softly. Owen tightened his grip around my hand, eyes blazing like the last flame in the night. And on Quincy Pier, where secrets shattered, where I lost one man, I found the one who stayed. If this story touched your heart, follow the channel and share your thoughts below. Every comment is a spark that helps future stories come alive and reach more hearts.